like this. All right, going live. Should work. Okay, we are officially live. Gonna give another couple seconds just to see if the chat can hear us. Keaton and Ashley, primarily Ashley, are you able to see the chat and moderate?
Oh,
yes.
we muted? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Cool. All right. Do you hear us in that stream?
No,
I muted.
Okay. Cool. Okay. All right. Well, we shall begin. So, welcome everyone to the film roundtable Q&A with the cast and crew of The NoiseNextDoor. Thank you for joining me. I guess we will start. I will ask each of you guys what your proudest accomplishment is with this film and this overall experience. So we will start. I guess I'll just go from top left, kind of go all the way down. So Will, go ahead and introduce yourself. What'd you do on this film?
Well, Chris, good question. How's it going, everybody? My name is Will Tran. I was the post-production sound designer for The NoiseNextDoor. So I would say, like, my favorite accomplishment on this film right here, I got to give it to Emberlyn Fane's footsteps. Like that was something that was like, I don't know why I think that Emberlyn Fane is so crispy. So I was like, I got to add like some sort of crackly, and I got to play around with some marbles and stuff just to make things sound a little bit crunchier. It was very satisfying, like, whenever we were going through like a 5-hour editing session just like over Discord. But that was a lot of fun to work with. I think I got to give it to the footsteps.
For sure, yeah, and the footsteps as well. Like you understood what I wanted before I even like explained it to you. Like you were adding in the crunching, the gushing, just like pff, it just looked nasty and sounded nasty. So you were on the same page right away. That's awesome.
You know it, man. You know it.
That's awesome. Speaking of Emberlyn Fane, Natalie, welcome.
Hello. Most proud of, I would say, it's kind of, creating Emberlyn Fane. I was playing around with some movements and sounds, and Chris and we had talked. But it was so interesting. I think until I was on set and what it would look like in camera, it was an interesting experience as an actor, because I had to just kind of like let go of a lot of control and be like, okay, what looks good and what do you want? And obviously I had seen some of your work and I was like, oh, this guy, like, he's really good at this genre. So it was really interesting. Like, I went in with some ideas, but I also went in with let's just play together and see what we create. And it was the physicality and the sounds, and that was it was really cool. And like, I just saw it for the first time, and I did it, and it was me, and I was terrified of the whole thing. So that's like a testament to it was great. It turned out great.
That's cool. You scared yourself in the future.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. The physicality was very fun working with you, because ultimately what I wanted was that you're unbalanced, that you can barely keep yourself up. So you in real life were barely keeping yourself up, trying to get the right look. That was challenging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think it was just really good. I love good teamwork on set, and this one was like really like relinquishing control, and it was cool. I loved it.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. Scott, welcome, Scott.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome.
Yeah. I played Ethan, the sometimes bad guy, sometimes red herring. We don't know. I think I was happy with working with Chris's vision on my character being just that. You really don't know where you stand with the guy. So trying to work a little balance. So I was happy with that came out, the way that came out, and I liked the way it fit into the whole plot. And just worked out great. So that was a great experience for me.
Definitely. And with playing sort of the suspicious role, what did you kind of, in your own head, canon reason for why Ethan himself is kind of coming across like this asshole who's untrusting?
Part of it was I tried to think about that this guy actually is beating his wife, but like it's weird. It's some weird thing. He got like also caught up with this other guy who's living across the street who's crazy, and so I kind of like channeled that a little bit. So don't let this guy get away too easy.
Gotcha. Well, it's awesome. Yeah, I've seen a couple people's reactions, and they always kind of they're never on Ethan's side. They don't like him right away.
Good.
Yeah.
Part of my plan.
Exactly. And speaking of the person that we're on their side, Jamie, welcome.
Thank you. In answer to the question, what I'm most proud of, I mean, this is also the first time I'm seeing it. Chris had sent me a couple clips just of a few scenes, and I'm really impressed. I also have to commend Chris and Alec. That one particular shot, just going like trucking through the wall, was fun. Things like that where I'm like, we were moving fast. We did 10 pages in a day, and to have like little moments, little touches of beauty like that, I think is really, really cool. And I was proud. One of the challenge I was facing going into this was I'd just come off of 12 days of working not as an actor but as an AD, 6 of which were overnights. That was, I think, a day, 2 days before we shot this. So I was completely exhausted. This was like the last thing before I was going to crash land for a couple days. So the challenge for me was, can I stay awake? Can I stay present? Particularly when we're shooting a great deal out of order, can I make sure that I'm still tracking a sense of where I am, where I've come from, where I'm going? And ultimately attract for me. So I'm proud of that. But I think in large part that's due to Chris and you guiding me, reminding me where I'm at in the story.
For sure. Yeah, that was fun to manage where Jay's mindset is, because we were bouncing around a lot. And we even, unfortunately, made a mistake of having the wrong wardrobe for an entire small scene that then we had to reshoot. But we ended up using clips from the first shoot in the final cut, because the performance worked better in that particular part. But then we either crop in or just kind of hide the fact that, wrong shirt on, whatever,
Oh, cool.
Little thing like that. But yeah, you killed it, man. Thank you so much for being game for going through just like 12 hours nonstop, just bouncing around timeline and just sticking with it, especially after the 12 days of shooting. Like you stayed focused. It was a pleasure working with you, man.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
Flipside Studios, Grady. Welcome, Grady. Tell us who you are. What you got?
So I'm Grady, and I did all the visual effects, which hopefully stayed invisible. Hopefully you watched that and you went, oh, there were visual effects. And so, yeah, it was, this was a really fun project. It was definitely a challenging one. This one, kind of what made this one interesting is doing a lot of fluid stuff without using fluid simulations. Fluid simulations are a little out of my wheelhouse. So we're adding and creating digital blood, and that was definitely tricky, but it was a lot of blending it in with the blood that was already there to kind of give this feeling of there's the practical, there's the digital, but you're not noticing that digital element. So it was a lot of fun.
For sure. And do you want to tell the audience sort of the fluid? So what was the VFX fluid wise?
Yeah, so it was, probably should have clarified that earlier. Blood. It was blood. So when we have this, this kind of ghostly character who's dripping blood, on camera, the practical blood wasn't being caught super well just because of kind of the way the makeup works and the light and things like that. So we're adding in blood kind of dripping from her fingers, as well as little bits of cleanup here and there, painting the blood out of the carpet and then painting it back in because of some makeup issues just with how that was acting with the carpet. So it was a lot of interesting things. And what I love about each visual effects project that I take on is I always feel like I'm learning something new, and I feel like I'm growing as an artist. And I definitely felt that on this project. And it felt like after doing this, I'm like, oh, awesome. I have another like tool set that I have in my belt. And for the next project, just take it and keep the ball rolling.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, thank you very much for saving some of those shots. Mario, welcome, Mario. Welcome back. Tell us what you did, what you're proud of.
Well, first off, I would like to say thank you for welcoming me back. I worked with you for Abby's Monster, and that was a complete delight. I loved it. My first film ever as a film composer, and you gave me that chance, so thank you for that. But this film, what I'm most proud of, Emberlyn Vane. That whole scene, those whole strings, and just getting the tone right for this film. Because initially, my plan was, okay, in order to tackle everything, I have to start writing almost immediately. Before we get anything, any video, any nothing, we have to start writing. What do we do? What tone do we come up with? And so I kept experimenting. I'm thinking, okay, maybe I want some of this, maybe I want some of that. So initially, came up with about 5 different drafts, like different ideas, and I sent them to Chris, and he was like, oh yeah, I like this, maybe, let's change that, modify this. And all in all, at the end of this whole process, some of the ideas that were in this final product were from the original drafts that were recorded. And so, yeah, I think the thing that I'm most proud of is just getting the tone right, and that whole Emberlyn Vane sequence when she first appears and when we first get the call with Jay that he's kind of figuring out, wait a minute, everything that I believed was incorrect. What's going on? So that whole sequence with the synths and the strings and the door kicking open, I mean, that to me was that has to be my proudest moment scoring this entire film. But all in all, it was great, man. Thanks for having me on. It was a delight.
Thank you. Yeah, that scene in particular, I really like how your music guides us through the shifting of emotions and the confusion that Jay is feeling with all these new pieces of information that Sarah's dropping on him. So, yeah, your music really helps that stuff. Keaton. Welcome, Keaton. And Ashley, but Keaton was on set. What did you do, Keaton?
I was the assistant director.
Right on. And
my proudest moment it was kind of brought up a few times, but sort of how we had to film 10 pages in one day. So it was definitely a lot of filming. And so it was basically just making sure we didn't run too far behind schedule, making sure we didn't forget shots, making sure, we cut the right shots, stuff like that. Basically making sure we were as on schedule as we could be with how much we were filming in one day.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I'm very glad that you were there. You helped us out a lot. It was hectic for sure. And you being on my ass telling me, okay, you might need to cut some shots. Come on. Come on. Let go.
Yeah.
But thank you.
But we did. We got them all. So,
we got them all.
I think we only cut 1 or 2.
Yeah,
so.
and in the cut at the end of the day, I think one shot that we ended up doing didn't end up in the final cut. Only one out of over 50 shots that we did. Everything else got used. Yeah. So it was worth it.
All in one day.
It was worth it. Carla, welcome, Carla. People may not recognize your face, but they will recognize your voice. Tell us who you are and what you did and what you're proud of.
Yes. Hi, I'm Carla. I played Sarah. I think the thing that I'm most proud of is being able to fit my lines into the time limit that I had before Jay started talking again. It was very challenging, and I'm glad I got the first rounds. I did not do so great with it, but then I was getting the pacing right, and it was very challenging as an actor because I love reacting more than I love acting. So to not be there with the person that you were acting with was kind of funny. So I'm proud of being able to just get into it, me alone in my closet, doing it versus with the person. So.
Yeah, and for the audience, I read Sarah's lines and all of the phone call lines on set. And I talk fast, but I try to slow down. I guess that didn't work. You know, well, it worked because we were moving fast the entire day. So the idea of actually slowing down my speech doesn't work really. So that's definitely a lesson learned. But you still killed it. You still made it. All your lines in, they make sense. They don't feel rushed. So yeah, thank you for tackling that challenge. Alicia, welcome back. A vet now of the horror films. What are you most proud of on this one? Oh, you are muted. I think you're muted. Maybe you are. Oh.
Oh.
There we go.
Hello everyone. So I did a production design. The most challenging thing was definitely blood, because it was a real apartment, not a stage, and I wanted to be sure we are respectful to the place. So I was able to find us a nice carpet to lay over the existing one so we can make all the mess, but only one time. So that's why it was quite challenging, because it's only like kind of like one shot and then everything is messed up. But I want to give a huge compliment to visual effects. Whatever you did with it, it looks amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I usually don't get to play on set. I kind of like make things and run to prepare another scene or something. But this time I was able to create a movement for the picture that ended up pretty good. I really liked how it came up. So that was fun. So I got actually to do something on a set.
Yeah. Yeah, the shaking of the picture frame looked really nice, and it was a very simple thing of just a little fishing line, just shaking it. That's it. That's all it takes. And then VFX painted it out. So that was a great melding of the both of you to make that effect work. Alec, my man, my right-hand man throughout this entire process. Let everyone know who you are, what you did, and what you're proud of.
Hi, I'm Alec Ybarra. I am the DP on this project. Yeah, I would say the main thing that I'm proud of is working with you, Chris, to create a look that's both natural yet still dark, and sort of being able to kind of ride that fine line and more of light the spaces, so each room felt like its own character, as opposed to trying to light all the actors perfectly in every single shot. So it was creating a naturalism, which, you know, from a bird's eye perspective seems easier, but then you realize there's just as much that goes into that, and like having to intentionally create some imperfections and go with the flow, and yeah, being able to shoot that many shots in a day.
Yeah. I mean, that was the biggest thing. This was the first time I ever worked with you, and I knew I was throwing a lot at you. I tend to write like a lot of shots initially, and then I'm like, okay, we'll probably cut some stuff out eventually. But then when I sent you the shot list, you were like, I think we can do it. I'm like, all right, I like that. Let's go for it, you know? And we kind of killed it though. We kind of still did it. Like we made it through the battle. And I love the hallway above all. I mean, I live here, so now that hallway feels different to me. It's got this backrooms vibe now that just, you know, it creeps me out. I hope it creeps other people out, and that was all you, just lighting that hallway to make it seem almost otherworldly. So that was awesome. Thank you. And and I guess, well, before I say my piece, so I think we will have to call the roundtable early because the way that this setup went, but I will quickly say what I'm most proud of, and then Ashley, you can ask us a couple questions from the audience. I guess, yeah, I mean, it's sort of cliche just to say doing it, proudest that made it, and that it's good. This was just nonstop challenges the whole way. Began the process in February, just writing the script. Literally poured my heart and soul into this thing for 4 months straight. Just could not stop thinking about it. And I just feel so energized making this film. And now I'm like, okay, yeah, Yeah, I like this. I'm back. I want to keep doing this and working with all of you. I mean, that's the big thing is the fear when you go in to make anything is that will people care? Will people get invested? And working with all of you, it made my job so much easier. And the pressure on set, I never really felt that pressure really. Like we were still, playing. That's kind of what you want to feel like when you're on a film set making a film. Like this is fun. This is a fun thing, even though it's super stressful. And working on set with all of you, and then the post-production process as well, just every step of the way. Like I want to thank you all for joining me on this. Like I couldn't have done it without you. So Ashley, what couple questions we got? We got like 4 minutes.
All right. This one is for Mario. It says the music is very jarring and creepy. What was your thought process behind it, and why did you choose the loud string noises for the climatic scenes?
So I want to thank Destiny for asking the question. So the thought process behind it, if I can summarize, is essentially I needed something very Chris told me at the beginning he wanted this thing to focus more on strings, right? So strings was the main note he gave.
Insidious strings.
So
that was my inspiration.
Okay. Yeah, yep. He mentioned that at the beginning, something about Insidious, and so he gave me a couple references, and I did see the references, and I was like, how do I do this, but not this? Like this needs to be its own original thing. And so I started experimenting with a couple different sounds and this and that, started playing around. And I'll just say this. Chris told me something that I'll never forget, and it's so true. I am too good at writing pretty melodies. Remember that? Yeah, I'm too good at writing
you make
melodies.
it sound pretty.
So,
it's not what I want.
Yeah. And so exactly. No, we needed to that needed to change in order for it to sound kind of, horror-esque. And so while initially this all did start with a simple 4-note motif, that eventually changed and I started adding more, I guess, effects like string effects and stuff like that. And eventually it all piled on to create the Emberlyn vein sequence when you get all those strings rising at the end and you get that whole scene of her crying and screaming and stuff. That is what was the end result of that. But yeah, it was very it was a process.
Yeah.
What we had at the beginning definitely was not what we heard at the end, although there were some references to the original tracks that were recorded for it. And why did I choose the loud string noises for the climactic scene? Well, I mean, this is Emberlyn Vane. I mean, she is scary. First of all, we're not even supposed to think that there even is an Emberlyn Vane. The whole thing was, oh, this is domestic abuse. Like, oh, we're supposed to believe that, poor Ethan here is the bad guy. And so then that whole thing changes. So I wanted something very, very powerful to hit at that moment. And so I went with Chris's notes for the strings, and I made them just as loud as humanly possible, just to really, get that effect going in there when you get that reveal.
Yeah. Awesome.
So,
yeah. Next question, Ashley.
Tara Cappy Chat Official asks, Chris, what is your favorite horror short film that you have made and why?
This one, because it's the best. Next question.
Let's see. Do you plan to make a feature-length movie soon? And if so, what genre would you start?
It's going to be horror, and the call is going to end in a few seconds. So, yeah, it's horror at some point. But thank you all so much for joining me, and